database, that's when you would ideally use post. Get is when you're trying to get some details from the database. So 200, okay, there are like just general 404 error. We might see it as a joke as well. 404 is an error, and 200 is always it's okay, everything's good. So here when we see, we should be able to see a response. Yeah, we have a response, and this is the response that they're directly printing on here. So even though we chose JSON, let's say we choose another type of XML, but the response that we get from the network is always going to be JSON. This, if I'm right in this. So I sent another request. Okay, yeah. So this happens in the backend. My bad. So in the backend, they convert it into XML and show it. And this is JSON. Okay. So JSON is the most commonly used, and um, this is the key value pair. But I think, yeah, that's the inspector. It's also very cool because you can see how your website would look on a phone. And ideally, this is also something when you're building a website, you should try to cater to, because a lot of us open these websites on the phone. Yeah, very cool. We can, if any of you would be interested, we can do this as an app as well. We can make this we can call it like an icebreaker app or something, where you're having trouble starting a conversation with something. Just open our app, click on get a joke, and start a conversation. So we can have something like that if any of you would be interested. That's awesome. Have you built the React website?
One of the participants here, he has been guiding us. Kishan is guiding us. So he has built a front end application using just plain JavaScript. And
Mm-hmm.
then he also demonstrated how to do it using React.js. And now
Oh,
he's trying
nice.
to do it using another platform called SvelteKit, which is a
Mm.
little later
Front
version
end.
of a React kind of platform. And you know, I think Kishan is here. So yeah, Kishan,
Yeah,
we were
he's
just going through the joke API, and we are planning to use it as a second assignment for the mobile app. Okay.
nice. It is much better. The Svelte, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, SvelteKit.
Okay, nice. Um, I don't know how much this would help, but we also build apps using React Native. It's a cross-platform application. So a lot of people who have done React JS also find it easier to get started with React Native. And with that, you can build Android and iOS applications just with one code, and you can deploy it on both. So that would be, if you are into if you do like React, then native is also a good
No,
option.
but Shubhra, for at least for this session, let's focus on native with
Yeah,
Kotlin only.
I
Yeah.
unfortunately don't know React
Yeah,
Native,
yeah, no,
so
we'll focus
I
on native
can
with Kotlin
just
because I
talk
don't
about
want
it yeah,
too
just
many,
that's
different variations. Yeah. So
that's
why
okay. I
don't
mean,
we start with the weather app and then come to the joke app? Okay.
yeah, we're not going to be doing the joke app right now, but we can do it if
Yeah.
um yeah, we can get started with this. So um for anyone who has just joined, we're going to be building a weather app that takes an input of the city and gets the weather. Kishan, which city do you live in? Can I ask?
I live in Sharjah right now, UAE.
Okay. Is that the right? Yeah. So Sharjah city, 25.16 degrees Celsius and clear sky. So we're going to be using API to get this. And is anyone building it on the side on their own Android
Yeah.
Studio?
Shubhra,
Um,
just
then
try New York. It was
yeah,
snowing yesterday.
yes, it's
Oh,
1.14 degrees Celsius.
1 degree.
Extremely cold.
That's very cold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
extremely cold in anything in.
Oh
the
my
east coast
God.
of yeah,
You must be shivering. The
or
people there must be shivering. Mm.
yeah, definitely. Oh,
Toronto
Toronto.
spelling is
Where I
wrong.
get the sorry, yeah. Toronto
Okay.
is also on the northeast.
Uh,
So these places are really cold.
yeah.
And yeah. Just I just wanted to check, is anyone building it on their side on their own Android studio? Then I'll send the API key. If not,
No,
then we
no,
can
no.
follow along.
No, I think you can proceed first.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No. Anyone, if anyone wants to stop me anywhere, let me know. So, as usual, we'll go into a new project. I've already created a new project. This is just the base project, but just as a recap file, sorry, new and new project, choose a empty views activity, um, choose the name. So, does anyone have a better name for a weather app? Right now, it's called just weather, but keep this as 7.0, and Kotlin DSL is the thing that we want. I'm not going to create it right now because it's going to take some time to sync. So this, I've not made changes into any of the code. Activity main and main activity is what has come. The only thing where I've made changes was the issue that my system shows. I had to change some versions in the .toml file, if you might have remembered. And the second thing that I did add was, so just as a just to understand a little bit more about what build.gradle is. Gradle files, what are they? So every Android app, even if you build it in React Native, Flutter, you build it in any platform, you'll always have a build.gradle. So build.gradle, you'll have multiple actually. So build.gradle is like an it's sort of like an instruction file that tells Android how to build this app. So it's like a, let's say, like an instruction set that, okay, compile it with this certain Java version, use this sort of Kotlin
So, for
version.
example, like this file can be used to replicate the same app in multiple environments.
This, what do you mean by multiple environments?
Like, for example, if you are sharing this app to, I don't know, your friend's computer, he might have multiple versions of Java installed.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So let's say you have Java 17, you and I share this GitHub repo with you. When you pull it, you can change this to Java 17. Usually, this is auto generated based on the environment you already have. So if you're pulling something, I would recommend just pulling the, so in your project folder, this is how the project folder is going to look like. I would recommend just use focusing on these three within the Java file, the main activity and the rest, everything within the src file folder, but everything else should ideally be auto generated by your environment. Otherwise you can run into issues unless you and I will have the same exact environment. It's, you're right. The name of the application and everything comes here. So let's say anyone has a better name, I come in and change it. One of the places I do change it is in here. So the reason why we're going a little bit into detail is, there are two types of build.gradle files. One is the project level build.gradle that you can see is outside everything. It's within the folder that I've created. So that project level is basically, it's just for the Gradle version, or the, or any plugin version. So it's like the top level build file. Ideally, when you change anything, you're not going to be touching this. There's another file that lies into your app folder. So there we have another build.gradle. So this is the main build.gradle that you will be working with a lot of times. Um, so the things that we are at, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
that was your echo, ma'am.
Okay. Is anyone else facing this echo? Anyone?
No, no.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we are already able to hear you.
Okay, okay, okay. Oh, that was an echo from your. Okay. Sorry. Oh, the name for Open Weather app. Yeah, definitely we can rename that as well. Um, just to go over, the these four lines were not there when I started the project. So I've added these four lines. So the reason why I've added these four lines is today we'll be working with API calls. We can always build a raw, like a whole class that handles the API calls, that makes the raw network call, gets the sort of response, converts the JSON into. So Kotlin doesn't understand JSON; it only understands classes and objects, or data in the form of an object. So when we put a JSON into a Kotlin code, it's going to take it as a string, and it doesn't even convert it into a key value pair. So that's why we are using some of the pre-built dependencies that will help us sort of build this project. So retrofit. Let me just show the website. So retrofit is basically, it turns your HTTP API into Java or Kotlin. So you can very easily make an API call and get the response into an object or anything. So retrofit is one of the API, one of the dependencies we are going to be using. This is that. The second one is the converter to JSON.
Shubhra,
So
I didn't understand what is a retrofit. Can you explain again what is a retrofit?
So retrofit is a dependency that helps you make the network call without writing the entire like writing the entire code yourself. Because when you start writing, then you have to handle all the errors that you might get from a HTTP call. You have to make the raw network call. You'll have to open the HTTP connection manually and get it. So retrofit makes it easy to make an API call using something called interfaces, and
Sorry,
the
sorry.
URL every.
Shubhra, sorry. You have to
Yeah.
further simplify it for me. Can you tell it slowly? I mean, just give me some. What is retrofit? Is like what? Is it like Postman? Is it like
So
what? I mean, I'm not able to get an idea of what is. Is it
um
a tool? Is it a software? Is it a cloud? What is it? Retrofit?
it's like a library in
It's a
Python.
library for
So
Python, is it?
no, like comparable to a library that we use in Python, right? We use
Okay.
libraries.
Okay.
um
So what does
Here we
the
call it
library? What is the
dependencies.
input to that, and
So
what's the output to that?
so a library has multiple methods. So depends
Okay.
on what method you use.
Hmm.
It handles. So basically, it's a whole library that helps you make HTTP connections and calls
Okay.
APIs. So we'll be using certain methods in that, and there we'll be seeing what is the input and the output. So retrofit helps you, like, so let's say we weren't using retrofit, so we would be calling an API manually, opening an HTTP connection, handling like thread safety. That means it has to run in the background or in the foreground. uh, then we'd have to like parse the JSON into like a class or an object, or we'd have to probably. Oh, one more thing that was very interesting with retrofit was when we enter, sorry, not there, when we enter New York, in an API call, spaces are illegal. So when we call an API, we have to handle that every space that comes in, it needs to be converted into a character like this, percentage 20. So just to give you an idea, let's say I search for Kotlin for beginners. You see that here, when I search that, the space doesn't directly translate as space. Here they use a plus to adjoin the letters, so adjoin the words. Sometimes it's percentage 20, and this plus is actually converted into percentage 20. So that is something also already pre-built, handled by retrofit, so it just makes your life easier.
So what you're saying is some expert who knows HTTP inside out has built some well designed functions and put all of that in one module, and is published as a library. So in our program,
Yeah,
we import that library and then make simple statements to ensure that it's properly handled. Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
someone has
So, Kishan,
already
I
built.
think you should have a look at it. It might be useful to us sometime. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
So since it's everything's open source, even in Kotlin, you can always go into the working of this retrofit library and see all the code that they have written. It's usually whenever you're trying to debug something, uh, s- always using libraries are not a good idea, because when you're trying to debug something, you don't know if the issue lies in your code or if the issue lies in the dependency of the library code. And if it lies in the library code, then we don't have it, it'll be only read only files. We can't change anything in those files. So um, just as a warning, like, use libraries only when necessary. So http, I am using a library, but if someone is interested, like, you can get into the details of how it works, and we can build a raw http caller as well. The third thing that is coroutines. Coroutines are very important. This is something that we cannot surpass. So coroutines are a concept in Kotlin that helps you manage thread safety. So does anyone know what threads are?
I am aware.
Yeah, so whenever we're doing any programming routine, every code runs in a, like, in something called a thread. So basically, coroutines, what it does is it lets your app that we're building, it lets that app do any any sort of long intensive work in the without freezing the UI of the app. So I don't know if you've seen some of the apps that might not have been handling this well. It sometimes comes as application not responding, so it's called as ANR error. So this happens when, let's say, they've made an API call and they've not used a core routine. Then it freezes the UI. So on a good day, it might make the API call so fast and get the result that a user might not even see that freeze in the UI. But on some days when the traffic is high or your network is slow or anything, when that API call is being made, your UI freezes, and then only when you get a response, that's when the UI resumes. So that's why when we develop an app, we never want that to happen. So if there is something that on load we want it to show up using an API call, then we can show a loader or something when where we wait for the API call to get a response and only then show up our screen. So coroutine solves that problem of where the screen UI runs on one main thread, and just as background, the screen UI runs on one main thread, and if that thread is blocked, the app freezes, and we don't want that. So that's when coroutines come in. It's like the background threads are going to handle any of the web calls or anything, any API calls, or you want something else to be prepared. um, it's like multitasking. So when you're working on something on the side, when, let's say, your project is syncing, you move on to something and do something else. You I don't know, design another app on your on a pen and paper or things like that. So it's like working on the background until I finish this work. I will let the UI do its work, and then once I have it, I'll send the data to the UI, to the main thread, and then it'll automatically adjust itself accordingly. So it's a very lightweight. It can pause, it can resume without sort of blocking the UI. So this is something that is probably one of the biggest Kotlin sort of wonders. Before that, people really struggled, and I think if you open up the older, like 10 years ago apps, application not responding would be one of the most common issues we would see. So coroutines, sort of see it a little more when we write the code, but that is why we are going to be using this implementation.
So Shubhra,
We don't write.
just a question. This application
Mhm.
not responding, I have seen that happening. Are you saying that
Yeah.
if that is coming, you can be sure that it is not using Kotlin?
Oh, no, no, no.
Not like that.
That's not true. It can happen even when I'm using all the coroutines and Kotlin and everything.
Okay.
It just reduces the coroutines. Every framework will have its own version of coroutines,
Okay.
where thread which handles thread safety.
Hmm.
Kotlin like really has done a great job with coroutines. It has this maintenance is probably um,
But
from my
how did you
experience.
come to know that Kotlin has done a great job? I mean, you as a developer, how did you get that impression? Hmm.
Just the dependency maintenance. If you go into the GitHub or go into the documentation, if you see the number of users using it, every app, like from any app that uses Kotlin, will be using coroutines. And if you even go into a beginner class of Kotlin, they are going to teach you coroutines. The maintenance of a dependency really matters. How often they maintain. You can always see how many people are using a dependency or what the rating for that dependency is. Coroutines uh, is a must have in any app that you build that would require an a network call.
Okay.
So, for example, like if we had a factorial calculator website, if the user enters like a really big number,
Yeah,
then it's like, for example, let's say he enters 1,000, factorial of
yeah,
1,000. So
yeah.
then it's a very intensive calculation. So then you would need
Correct.
another thread for calculating it, and in the main thread you can display a spinner.
So when you display a spinner, you ideally don't need to have another thread to do it. So when you display a spinner, um, you're basically telling freeze, like it's okay if app does not respond. You're not the user cannot open or work with the app. uh, Ideally this happens for anything that has to happen in the background. So but you're right, somewhere there we can always use coroutines and make sure that the intensive calculation happens in the background thread, and then we return the result, and after that load the UI. Actually, yeah, we can use that. You're right.
Okay.
So yeah, we should never update the UI from the background thread, but it should give a response to the main UI thread, and then it'll unsuspend the UI. So basically, we never want a UI freezing to happen. So any long tasks, run it in the background. Code also stays very clean, and um, yeah, yeah. Anything that you have to run asynchronously. That means you don't want any other thread to get blocked. You use coroutines.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. So the last one actually we don't need. This is something I use for logging, but it helps you log JSON cleanly. Um. This so anytime you change any of the Gradle files, that's the build.gradle, then you always have to sync. You'll get something like this, but you always have to sync. So this is the um, sync project with Gradle files is, yeah, Gradle project sync in progress, and it's going to
So now
get the.
that syncing is now happening in a separate background thread. Otherwise, the app would say not responding.
So actually, this app is not. So syncing is happening in Android Studio. This app that you see is on my phone, right? They're on two
Yeah, I
different
can.
systems. So
I like totally get it, but I'm talking about Android Studio itself. It's running it in a different thread.
yes, but also when you're syncing some, like when it's multiple dependencies, unfortunately, Android Studio also shows us application not responding.
Oh,
It doesn't do a great job in that. Usually, when you're syncing, a lot of the files, if you have a huge app like with 100 screens or something, you don't see these syntax handling or anything. It doesn't let you It doesn't handle any formatting, it doesn't handle any error, like any errors. Let's say if I make this app active it, you see so many errors, right? When the sync is in progress, it'll just show me as this might be right. This red line will never show. So Gradle sync is something that does take up the main thread. It's in Android Studio doesn't handle async very well. That's why it takes up so much of your RAM.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but when you're running the app, that would happen in a background thread, because there we're not sort of adding files to the folder or anything. It's just taking the code, compiling it, and then running the app. But sync adds files to the folder. It can change the structure of your folder. It can sort of, when we don't have these certain dependencies, then the code also might throw us errors. Now if I use something called coroutine, it's not, I mean, if before I added the dependencies, it's not going to understand what it is. But now that I've added the dependency, it's going to understand what it is. So that's why it needs full access to your folder.
Okay.
So let's go. Sorry. Um, let's get into the app building. Any questions until now? Sorry. Just 1 second. Yeah. Um, sorry about that. So let me just a second. Let me just put this on DND. Okay. So yeah. Now the first thing that we added was dependencies. The second thing now we need to add is we have something called the manifest file. So it is always going to align your app folder, src, and you have something called Android manifest.xml. So this manifest file, what it does is, um, this is where you handle any sort of things that you would require from the phone itself. So from the phone now, what we require is internet access, because it needs to hit the API and get a response back. If we don't have internet access, let's say I switch off the internet on my phone right now, switch off Wi-Fi, then the API is not going to work because it requires internet access. So now let's say if you're building an app that, let's say, controls smart bulbs like tube light, or a bulb or a tube light, it usually would talk to it using Bluetooth. So when you open a app like that, it's always going to ask you that your app is requesting for Bluetooth permissions, grant it or not. So all those permissions that your phone has to give to the app would go into the manifest file. So here, like, you don't, all of this is by default. You don't need to worry about any of this. All you need to do is something called users permission, and we're going to name it, I mean, we're going to need the internet one, Android permission internet. So this is the, okay, yeah. So this is what is going to make sure that we have the internet permission. And usually internet, we don't get a pop-up, because by default we allow the internet, Wi-Fi or mobile data access to our on all our apps on our phone. So this is, next time, I mean, a little more ahead, when we try to get the GPS or something, here we would have to add, because users permission, it's going to be called, either we use find location or course location. It would be that how accurate you want the location. Do you want the exact GPS coordinates to be given, or just an area? So we only require course, that is just, we just require an area. So here, this is where you will be handling Bluetooth, messaging, I think, yeah. Messaging service is, this is where you would add it, or photos or galleries. Call phone is where, I forgot what the name for gallery is, but any camera Camera would require permission into your gallery. So this is where you add all the permissions. As you know that any app that you use usually has the same UI where it asks you for permissions, right? Because that the Android operating system is doing. So the Android operating system will read that XML file, see the permissions that has been requested for by this app, and then allow the user to choose yes or no. So usually when you're using like a permission that can be blocked, you have to handle the code that if the user doesn't give the permission, then what do we do? We have to show a toast or something that makes sure that the user should always, if it's a blocking thing, should always give us the permission. So um, now getting into the XML. So right now we have the hello world XML. Any questions till now?
I just have a small doubt.
Mm-hmm.
If the user refuses to give the permission, then how can we handle that?
So you have to have a blocking on your UI screen saying without giving this permission, we cannot go ahead. We cannot surpass that. We can never surpass that. But it should not be like a if the user doesn't give us permission, we cannot always show a loading that or we're still trying or something like that. We need to
Oh,
handle that if permission not granted, then show the screen
okay.
where it takes us to the settings or takes us to a specific file. So whenever you don't allow permissions, let's say notification permission is not necessary. We can always say that our app will still work without notification. So that's not a blocking permission. But if it's a Bluetooth permission, which I require to operate a light, then that's a blocking permission. So we
Okay.
need to always handle it, saying that we need this permission, then otherwise we cannot continue on with this app.
So it's like needed or nice to have.
Yes, exactly. So you decide on what your app requires that is needed, or some of them are nice to have, like notifications, or let's say some of them are like some of them might be used on at a feature that the user might not even be intending to use your app for. Let's say we have an app that does require you to upload a photo only when you want to post something, but when you want to like just scroll through Instagram, till then it doesn't ask the permission, right? Until you go on to post a LinkedIn post or an Instagram post, it's not going to ask you for permission. But when it does, that time you need to make sure that it's a blocking or a non-blocking permission.
Okay.
You can never surpass any permissions that the user has not given Android, because that becomes a security issue after that. So here we're going to so yesterday, day before yesterday, when we used the unit converter, we used something called a linear layout. Right now also we can use a linear layout, but we're just going to go into a little bit of constraint layout. So constraint layout is slightly better than linear layout when you have multiple fields you want to place on your app. So you don't want it just as a list view, one after the other. Let's say I wanted here a drop down box on the right of the text field which chooses do you want it in Fahrenheit or Celsius or anything. That time a linear layout wouldn't do the job, or you'll have to put multiple linear layouts within one will be a horizontal, one will be a vertical. That's not ideal for us. So there is something called constraint layout that mainly works on the constraints you set relative to the other elements on the app. So here we want the text to be under the title, and we want it to be constrained. So let's say I move the text to the center, then we want the entire thing to move below it. We don't want just the text to be coming here. So we are constraining every field to each other, and then we handle it accordingly. So the only difference between linear and constraint and coding wise that you will be adding more is these 4 lines. Here you're saying, so these lines are constraints. So constraint bottom to bottom off. So we'll learn this. I mean, let me just clear this and we'll start building it, and that's when we'll see it. So the first thing is going to be your text view. So the width, I can just say match parent. Parent is the screen right now. And the height would be just wrap content because we only wanted to take this much. If I put it as match parent, then it's going to take the entire parent's height. So that's not ideal. Next, I'm going to put text.
I would
Sorry,
like
I don't know.
to try inherit parent.
Sorry?
I would like to try match parent in the second number 13.
Oh, yeah. So you see, okay, just notice this. So let me add some text and then we'll see that. Okay. So weather app. So we have something called when we had just notice this line. Okay. This is
Okay.
the space that it's taking, your that text view is taking. Now when I make, right now it's wrap content, that means as much as the size, let's say I increase the size to 32 dp. Sorry, I don't know why that went there, to 32 dp. I think my laptop's a little slow, sorry. Then you see that the line is still as much as the text is. Now if I say match parent, notice this button that. I think my laptop's a little slow. So yeah, you see that line just went down here. So match parent would take up this. That means we're saying that this entire text view is going to take up this entire space. So anything I add after this, let's say I add another text view. I'm going to be just wrap content, and that
It will be at the bottom.
text will become test. So this is not going to have any space to sit on because it's a constraint layout. We haven't given any constraints. Let's say if this was a linear layout. We it doesn't have space at all to sit here because linear layout places things one after the other. It is vertically just placing things like this, right? So because it's a linear layout and we have told this text view can take the entire screen, this text view has nothing, no place to sit in.
So like
So
the text, so like the
sorry.
text size is the same, but the place it has available is huge.
Yeah. So the place it has available is, we're telling it take the entire screen. Just don't worry about anything else.
Okay.
So also match parent depends on the parent. Right now it's on the top of the hierarchy. So this is the parent is our screen. But if our parent was another like linear, let's say, let's go back to constraint layout. Sorry. And right now, because there is no, we have to set constraints that where do you want it to sit. You can see it sit behind this weather app, this test, right?
Overlap.
So yeah, because constraint will always place it at the top if we don't give it any sort of idea where it wants to sit. So that's the error we might be seeing here. View is not constraint. It only has design time position, so it will jump to 0, 0 at runtime unless you add the constraints.
Oh, okay.
So always by default 0, 0 unless I add any constraints. So that's why we never do match parent. Just notice now, if I make this back into wrap content, the line goes back into, just take as much space you need. Don't try to take the entire parent, entire phone size. So right now, so we have weather app. One main thing that we are missing here that we have spoken in the unit converter app. Does anyone remember what I need to put in the first line of this? How will Kotlin know what is what?
I think ID.
Yes, we need an ID. So we need an ID that this is just the header title. So we need an ID, and also an ID is required for the other views to tell that constraint it to this view. So that is when we'll see that right now. So right now here we don't need to add any constraints because by default it'll go into 0 comma 0, and that's what we're okay with. We're going to add something called gravity that helps you set the alignment. So we're going to do it center. So it goes into the, sorry about that, it goes into the center. Then we're going to do something called text style, that we're going to make it bold. We're going to increase the text size and give it 20 dp. Here
What
for
does
the entire
DP
app,
mean? What does
so
DP mean?
dp is very similar to pixels but for a phone screen. dp,
Okay.
I forget what the full form is. Just
And that gravity or Android colon gravity. So if we had some like animation, by default it will just slide back to the center unless we just manually move it later. Is it?
sorry, can you repeat what you said?
Like we said Android colon gravity is equal to center, right? In line number 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we had any animation on that text, it does that mean it
Mhm.
will by default slide back to the center?
If we had any animation on the text, as in the way the text appears on the screen.
No, like in the movement. Like for example, let's say we had an animation that moves the weather app to the bottom of the screen. Then when we
Mhm.
like switch it back to
Then it's,
default, will it slowly slide back to the center like real gravity?
no, so gravity is going to be, what do you say, respected the most. So by default, it's going to start on the center. It's never
Okay.
going to show the UI go from left to right. By, if you don't mention gravity, then it's going to be left aligned. And when we put gravity, then it's going to respect what the user has put. And then any animation, if you say you move it from the center of the, like vertically, gravity right now we're setting horizontally. Vertically, if you want to move it from the center of the page to the top, it's always going to maintain the center aligned and go to the top.
So it's like the
So
default location where it will sit on.
yes, the default location, default alignment where you would want it. So here instead of center, I put right, it's going to go onto the right most of the page.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's say you have an app where the options button or the your profile button is always going to be on the right, right? Some most of the apps we see it on the right, where the account details or any options or settings will be on the right, and on the left will be your logo. So
Yeah.
here the Android gravity is right, Android gravity is left on the
Oh, yeah.
or left doesn't have to be there, and in the center we can have a logo. So things like that, that always stick to the right, always stick to the left, always stick to the center. So for this entire layout, I want to add some sort of padding. I don't want it to stick to the top of the screen. So DP is very similar to pixels. As we saw, it's called density independent pixels. It's like a virtual pixel for your Android app. So it's actually, I think, used for web dev as well. So 24
Yeah, I
DP.
have used this in buttons in HTML.
Yeah. So right now, text view probably doesn't have constraints, so we're going to add constraints. So even though we don't technically need it, we're so constraint top to top off. That means top of my view should be aligned to the top of what. So right now it needs to be just parent, and we'll see for the next ones. So next we're going to add a we'll see here we need like an edit text, right? That takes in the,
So
so
it's like
edit text.
in
Mhm.
line number 20, it like takes up from the top of the parent to the end of the element itself. Is it?
So we're just, the constraint is to tell where do you want to start the placing the element.
Ah, okay, okay. It's like the
So
room that it owns.
yes, yes. So right now, since I've not added any constraint, you see that this edit text has also gone and started at the top. We have added padding here 24 dp, but it's only respecting that padding. But it is this line that you see is our edit text. We don't want it to go and start at the top where we have the title, right? We need it to move a little down. So that's where we'll add constraints. So here is where we'll add constraint. So here we have top to top off, but we want top to bottom off. So that means um, after the bottom ends of the weather app title, then you start placing my edit text. So here I'll put id of header title. So if you see, it moved down, right? So it's
Mm.
constrained to this text. So now if I move everything, let's say if I put some margin top as 30 dp, you will notice that everything moved along with it, right? Not just the title, the text also moved down. So now everything, the way the header is going to be placed, the edit text, we're telling that just place yourself right below the title. We're just
But
telling it constrain yourself to that text.
but I have a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that edit text like not starting exactly where weather app ends? Does it have like a separate padding?
So if you see the edit text, we by default edit text component gives you space to type something, right?
Oh, okay,
So
okay, okay, okay.
it's not just a line. If it was just an underline, it would start here. But edit text component itself is this much, where
Oh, I
it's a
thought.
line at the bottom.
Oh, I thought since we didn't specify any width, I thought the entire edit text component got shrinked.
Oh no, no, yeah. Edit text, we have told width to be parent, so that means take the entire screen, but height to be wrap content. So now we have the edit text. We have the top to bottom of, and then we can, like, now we learn top to bottom. We can also do start and end. So constraint. So start. So start to start off. That means right now we have learned on where do I start placing it from vertical, but where do I start placing it from horizontal also I can tell. So right now we only have the parent, so we're going to tell parent, and we can always say end to end of as well. Constraint end to end of parent. So that means just constraint yourself such that even if it is, if I enter a large amount of text, never go outside the parent, if that makes sense. So always make sure you respect the parents width. So we have this, then we need a hint. So these are constraints. Ideally it should always be at the bottom. We need something called the hint, that is going to be enter city.
Oh,
So
so
that is the hint.
it's like the
That,
placeholder for typing.
yeah, it's a placeholder or a label, not a label but a placeholder. You're right.
Okay.
Now, last time when we had taken an edit text, we had set the input type to be decimal or number decimal. But right now, we don't need number decimal. We can let it be just normal QWERTY keyboard, right? So this here we have something called text. Do we want it to autocomplete? Do we want it to autocorrect? We have all those. If it was email address, we can set it as email address and so on. We can just set it to person name. That means it's probably just going to be string, like characters. It's not going to have it's not going to have numbers there. So we have this now, and we're going to close the edit. Again, we need the ID. So ID, we're going to say city, right? So this is the input for us. Yeah. So next we're going to have just we have the button here, right? So we're going to build the button. For that we're going to use just a basic button. Width would be match parent. If we, let's see how it looks if I just do wrap content, then the button is just going to um be as big as the content. So as you can see right now, it just is the small because we just did wrap content. So if I put some text in it, excuse me, get weather, it's only going to take space as much as I'm giving it.
So
So depends.
we should use gravity to center it and constraint to move it
Yes,
below.
yes. So gravity to center it. So why hasn't it gotten center? Mm, gravity to center it should work. Let's see. Let's put the constraint. So constraint top to bottom um, of the ID city. So I want it to always be below city, and constraint start to start of parent, constraint end to end of parent. So let's say I want it to be yeah, center aligned. This is going to do it because we're gonna tell it start and end, constraint yourself according to the parent, and then set the gravity to be. So now if I remove the no, actually without center also it would move, it would just stay there. um Actually I should,
Can we
I
edit the
don't.
styling of that button?
Yeah, we can. What would you like the styling to be?
Like, for
mm,
example, square with rounded corners, blue color, white text,
so
like that.
yeah, we can always change the color, we can change the rounded to be smaller or bigger. So let's do that. Let's change the color of the button. So I think it's appearance, if I'm not wrong. No, sorry. So let's try with uh text color. Where okay, let's say we want um so if you want to change the default button shape, you might have to use a drawable, and let's say you have a star shaped and you upload like a star, and then you ask the button to align itself according to that star shape. um or if you want to, let's say, change the color, I think it's background color maybe, yeah. So background, let's say I want it to be black.
Oh,
uh why isn't it turning into black?
how did it turn squarish?
Mm, let's see. This is so shape, it should have something called Android shape, no, radius. Mm-mm. Okay, not card view, we want it to be um what is circle radius? I keep so the background color, maybe something else is there. Once we button on click, and then I think background tint, probably something. Yeah. Yeah. Background tint adds a color to it. So
Oh,
background adds a background shape to it. So background tint tells you to add the color. So let's try with background, and we
is that
can have a let's see if anything by default is there. Otherwise, we'll have to upload a drawable and then do it. But all of these are colors. So yeah, drawable, I see launcher background is a shape. So if we just go into this, an IC launcher background would be of some sort of square or rectangle. It's loading
can't we
the.
just can't we just edit this file? It's
This probably is being used somewhere else. So, but whenever you upload a drawable, it's automatically going to generate an XML, and then you can edit it accordingly. So you'll place it.
So it's like
So,
SVG.
yeah, it's SVG. You upload a vector basically, and then it converts into an XML. So here in drawable, you go and sorry, you go do a new and upload a vector asset. So when you say a vector asset, you upload a .svg file,
Okay.
and then it converts it into a XML where you can also change the values of it, and it'll automatically adjust its pixels. So right now I don't have a vector file, but we can do that. uh, Let me find one and then we can do that. So right now, background tint, and if we had to change the text color, we can let's say what color would look good with this. Yellow.
Orange.
Let's see what colors are present. So in colors.xml right now we only have, so here we'll add an orange and we'll find the XML for this.
Oh, so there is
Not
an
XML, sorry.
separate.
Not
There is a
XML,
separate.
the hex. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So there is a separate .xml file for saving the colors.
Yes, it's called colors.xml.
Oh,
So you need a hash here. And now if I say color orange, it should handle it. Mm-hmm. Sorry. So this is giving us orange. Why isn't the text color changing? Yeah, I didn't
nice.
change anything. It's just slow and loading. So now we have the get weather, and then finally we'll have a text view where we'll show the result. Also, I need to add a button ID to this. Submit button or so now we have a text view which will be the result. So this is where we'll get the weather and display it. So the width, let's say we wanted to match parent, wrap content. You can always specify a specific width, by the way. But ideally, if you put in the numbers and you change the size of your phone, you run it on a phone that has a bigger screen size, a smaller screen size, then it becomes a little problematic.
So it's like responsive layout.
Yes, yes. So it's always going to take the parent. That's the screen size of your phone. So right now the text, I'll just leave it empty, or where the data will appear here. As you see, it went to the top 0,0 again. Constraint, I want it to be top to bottom of the button. No, sorry. Submit button. So it went down there. Start of the, actually, I can just.
Will we be using the ID defined in line number 34 in main activity.kotlin, Katie?
Yes, yes. That we need to say that on click of submit button, then take the value from the city, that is ID city, and change the component that is there in the result ID to the response we generate.
Okay.
So this also we can change as we, so let's say we want to add a margin top and say we want it to be I want to keep a 12 dp space. I give some space. Here I can set the gravity to be center, it'll go into the center. I want it to be bold. Sorry, style to be bold or italics, let's say. Um, and then
Can we apply two textiles at once?
yes, sorry. So when we put just a second. Yeah, so let's say we want it to be bold and italic. We add a um, separator. So bold, and then we add the separator, it'll become italic, bold
Oh,
and italic. So it's ideal for some static text, but if you want to add a more comprehensive font or something like that, then we can always do it with programmably with Kotlin as well. So
okay.
it's called something called typeface, and we can say that for result, then set typeface and set it to bold, italic, or there are multiple options there. So this is one of the easier ways. So I think for today, if everyone's okay with it, we'll stop with the UI, and I mean we'll just stick with the UI, and then tomorrow we'll continue on to the weather model and the API response, and we'll do it, which not ideally would not take the entire class, but we can play around more with the UI in the next 10 minutes. Or if anyone has any questions, let me let me know.
Maybe we will also mess around with the AI so that we know, I mean, the UI, so that we know.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Uh, Sorry, I missed your chat. Anushri, Dhyan, Pranati, Shriveni. I think is this. I don't know who's John Doe, but yeah. If any Gayatri, Nisha, anyone has any questions, um,
Shubhra, tell me what's a coroutine again? Just I
so
heard
a
what you
core.
said, but
Mhm.
maybe can you explain again, please?
Yeah. So a coroutine is basically like the word we use. I think in Python we use something called async,
Async we know.
where we where we run something asynchronously, that it should not run on this thread, it should not block any of the other functions I'm doing.
Hmm.
At the background, run this function, and then once it's done, let like this will continue on its thread, and this will just finish its thread, and it'll have the variable with the value, right?
Hmm.
So coroutine does something like that, but in for UI. So UI runs on one thread, and
Hmm.
any um, computation, any network call, any sort of WebSocket, if we have, runs in the background thread,
Hmm.
where we want it to run in the background without blocking the UI. And once that is ready, then we tell the UI, okay, I'm ready. I'll we
Hmm.
usually like set a variable to which we want the data to go into, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So the API data should go into something like this. So that variable will get automated, and the second background thread will close. The best thing about using a coroutine is we use something called life cycle.
Hmm.
So that means that when this screen that is there on my phone that you can see, when that screen is closed, the background thread, let's say it's still running, it should also get cancelled. I don't want it to be running when the app has gone into the background,
Hmm.
like I'm using some other app. That just takes unnecessary resources.
Hmm.
So coroutine helps that only when the activity is alive, that
Hmm.
is seen,
Hmm.
then run the background thread. Otherwise, don't run the background thread and stop, like cancel the coroutine, cancel the task.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's at the like center of it.
Okay.
Does that?
And
Yeah.
one more general question is Kotlin used in any other place other than mobile app development?
Kotlin can be used for web development as well, actually. although it's not as popular, Kotlin is used for web development.
Mhm.
I don't know any other places where people use Kotlin as extensively, but
Mhm.
it can be used for web and mobile app.
Okay.
It's trying to like it. So right now, before we had Java, right? So
Mm.
Java, we used to build apps using Java.
Mm.
Java does the work of a backend. Java does the work of like having like coordinating with the UI and things like that. Kotlin made it easier for mobile app development, and so it's slightly like a subset of Java. So when I
Mm.
go into this, um, so main activity,
Mm.
and I enter this app compact activity or some.
Mm.
Uh, why isn't it going here? If I enter this, okay,
Mm.
I'm usually used to. Eventually, you will hit a Java code. Kotlin is
Okay.
just a layer over it.
Okay. Okay.
So, as you can see here, it's a Java fragment activity.java.
Oh. Okay.
So, Kotlin is just a layer over Java.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other things? Any other doubts?
Sorry, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
If we have to connect to a database at the backend, uh, there will be some adapter in Kotlin to connect to a MySQL server or something.
Ideally, we do it with API. Your database will have a backend that exposes the data in a certain way. Uh,
Okay,
it's not
so it's
recommended
not
to just
recommended to connect directly. Mm-hmm.
connect directly to the database and then do SQL queries here. But
Mm-hmm.
you need to have a backend file that can be using Python, Java, or anything that will expose APIs, and you hit the API calls.
Sir, it's like Flask APIs that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're going to be working with APIs, but if anyone can, like, is currently working on a project or can build a backend, then we can always access your database and
Mm-hmm.
build an app that you have the backend for. So
Okay.
feel free to let you know. Um, yeah, if any other questions or things that we can go into.
No, so tomorrow we will also try and you have the next project, next app in mind. What is the app you have in mind?
So either we go into getting the GPS coordinates for the weather app and then going into it, or we can try with some other kind of permission with Bluetooth. Or right now we'll ask for location, or if I mean I have a few rough ideas, but if anyone has any ideas, I'm open to that as well. We can go into clicking a picture and showing that as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you do whatever you have in mind, please do it to help
Mhm.
us. Okay. There's one question here.
um
Can you tell me what is the
yeah, I
advantage of
can.
using? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like just a little bit of background, Java on Android became very hard to read. There are a lot of error. Like there were a lot of places where there could be a lot of errors, and we weren't handling it properly. For example, very simple example is the null pointer exception that we spoke about yesterday. So that was never handled in Java implicitly. We had to explicitly mention that try and catch a null pointer exception block. So Kotlin has like that is one of the big reasons where error handling Kotlin already in their layer of code they already handled most of it. So Android's official recommendation became Kotlin eventually, and um, that's one of the main reasons for Android app development. Kotlin is like better over Java. So Android support for Kotlin is also better when like you it handles ANRs or any memory leaks that can happen in an app better in Kotlin.
Okay.
So Kotlin is like a oversimplified version of Java.
Kotlin, I mean, they run hand to hand. You can convert Java code to Kotlin, or you can convert Kotlin code to Java. Both of them work together very well. I wouldn't say it's oversimplified version, but it is built over Java. It's like a layer over Java that has built uh, has built functions to handle the Android operating system better without
No.
having to
Yeah, understood.
explicitly. Mm.
I think if I want to say what they have done is they have made sure that Kotlin compiles into a JVM, right?
Yeah, Java. Yeah, Kotlin does compile into JVM. So,
Yeah. So
um,
you don't need a separate, hardware or separate thing to it. Although it's a new language, it is meant for collaborating in applications where programmers are using Java.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's right.
So you can say Java plus plus, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of.
But I think
So,
here it is mainly recommended to support Android development. Okay. Mhm.
yeah, Android, like
Hmm.
official Google documents always recommend Kotlin as your first, and
Hmm.
then they have support for
I
Java, React.
remember that in the early stages when I have a tinkering around with Android, the documentation had both using Java, using Kotlin, using Java. Like it continued like that for 3 to 4 years. They were giving the
Yeah,
option for us to use both Java and Kotlin, but nowadays they are not talking about Java. So they made sure that
yeah,
they gave
that was for
enough.
backward
Yeah,
compatibility.
they gave us enough warning that Kotlin is going to come. Okay. Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Shubhra. I think we have reached 9:30. Okay. Mm.
yeah.
So please,
Thank you, everyone.
please give us a clue of a good app for tomorrow, so that we'll come prepared mentally.
We'll complete the weather app. We'll
No,
focus on
no. Tell
getting the
us other
API,
than
and
weather app, what else you have in mind?
let's see. Well,
Okay.
honestly, yeah, I
Okay.
can't say much. I'm trying to think what, depending on each class and what
Okay.
level we'll go into. But yeah,
Okay. Okay.
maybe something to do with camera and how we can access photos.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that is also a fun
Fine.
app.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um,
Bye.
Thanks.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.